I think it's about time that I made this video. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Dan. I am from the UK, I'm a physiotherapist, and I currently live in the Gold Coast in Australia. I've decided I want this channel to be all about people taking control of their lives. Step one of creating that philosophy is, in this video, I'm going to show you a step-by-step guide of exactly how you can move as a physiotherapist from the UK to Australia. There's going to be parts of this video that are appropriate for other countries, but I'm talking specifically about moving from the UK to the Gold Coast. So stick around, because if you want to live a life where you've got a view like this, then you probably want to hear this. So the first question you might have is, why Australia? Well, there's a little bit of a story behind that, so let me tell you. In 2024, my now fiancé and I went traveling Southeast Asia. We went to Thailand, we went to Bali, and it was probably one of the most eye-opening and magical trips of my entire life. We spent 5 weeks in the sun, in a new culture. We learned so much about ourselves, so much about the world, and this was really the starting point for us exploring other avenues and exploring somewhere else to live rather than the UK. So eventually we landed on Australia. We decided this in Bali, applied for our visas, which we'll get to. That was the start of the big move. We mainly moved for the lifestyle, the outdoor lifestyle, the climate, and career opportunities, and a chance to learn more about ourselves. If you want a full in-depth video on my thoughts and feelings around moving, then you can go and click that video up there. But some common reasons which you might be experiencing for a physio to move from the UK to the Gold Coast: the pay is better, the work-life balance is better, and there's a sense of adventure. And if there's one thing the last couple of years has taught me, is that adventure keeps life interesting, and I'm constantly chasing adventure. And let me just say, this move has changed my life. Alright, the bit that you actually want to know. How do you do it? Let's separate this video out into a couple of sections just to make it more digestible. First one, qualifications and your registration. If you're not a physio, skip past this section. If you are a physio, listen up. What qualifications are required? So first of all, you need a UK degree. That needs to be a pre-registration, so that's an undergraduate in physiotherapy or a pre-registration master's in physiotherapy. If you head to the APC website, the Australian Physiotherapy Council website, you can do the Express FLYR pathway, which means no exams, just some cultural safety training, and I'll put the price on screen now. That will grant you access to apply for an APRA registration. So let's backtrack a little bit. Basically, as long as you've got your HCPC registration, then your qualification will do. So as I said, the first thing you need to do is go to the APC website and apply for the Express FLYR pathway. That's given that you've already got a degree and a HCPC registration. You will need your documents, that is including passport, degree certificate, a HCPC registration certificate. If you studied in English and did your course in the English language, which if you're from the UK you will have done, you don't need to do the English language assessment, but if you are not from England, you may need to do that. You'll need a police check, which is not the UK police check, this is an Australian police check. I recommend going with Fit to Work. So Fit to Work is an official police check that's recognised by APRA, so you want to get that in early because it does take a while to come back. And then proof of ID, and you will need your Australian visa. And we'll come to the visa next. So timeline, this varies. Make sure you do it early. I think I did it around 4 months before I moved. I made sure I started the application process, and I'm pretty sure my registration came in a couple of days before I left. So if you can, give yourself 6 months. Visa, so I said you need the visa for the APRA registration. You don't need the visa to start the application, but you need it eventually. So how do you sort the visa? Here's what I recommend you do. This is what I did. Get a working holiday visa, subclass 417. When my fiance and I applied for these, it came back in about 2 minutes. It took around 2 minutes for us to get our visa granted. This will allow you 12 months in the country with 6 months at one workplace. And don't worry, we'll come to that later. You don't have to move workplaces, and I'll explain what I'm doing. But this is just how to move it. So for now, that will do. That visa basically activates as soon as you arrive in the country. It'll last for, I believe, 12 months, so make sure you're not applying for the visa more than 12 months in advance. If it's within 12 months, apply for the visa and you will get 12 months in the country from the date of entry. I believe the visa is around £330. Whilst we're on the topic, you can get a more permanent visa. That's not something I'm going to cover in this video because I don't fully understand it myself, so I don't want to give you wrong information. What I will say is I'm currently in the process of applying for a core skills visa, which will basically allow me to stay in the country, and if I stay in the country long enough, I'll eventually get residency. But You don't need that to move here. Just get a working holiday visa for now and sort any other visas once you're here. And going back to the app registration, once you have completed the FLYR Express pathway and everything's been approved, you can then apply for the app registration. Very much the same process, pretty much all the same documents required. Just spend some time reading through it because it's a little bit in depth and a little bit complicated. You can get people to help you with this. We decided not to, and it just took a little bit more time. We read through it. Let me know if you have any questions about that process in the comments below. Okay, so next, we've got a visa. We are in the process of applying for our registration. Next step is to start looking for a job. I reached out, so I looked at where I was gonna live. I knew it was gonna be in the Gold Coast. Originally we were looking at Brisbane, but we wanted beaches, so we came to the Gold Coast. I then just started looking on Google for physiotherapy clinics in the area. And I started sending some emails. Rather than applying through the generic way of going on Seek, which a lot of people would recommend, I actually would recommend sending individual emails to the clinics themselves and reaching out to them that way. I did apply for a few through Seek, and that does help, so I'd recommend doing both actually. Reaching out to people is a really good way just to show your interest, let them know what you're doing, let them know what you're about. Try not to make it too long, but just be personable and explain what the move is and what your skills are. See if you can get some conversation going. I think I had about 4 or 5 interviews whilst I was back home still, so expect to have to get up extremely early so that you can catch people whilst they're in their work day over here in Australia. I ended up getting a job through emailing someone. I then also got offered a job through Seek. I ended up taking the job through Seek because the benefits were better and the people seemed better and it just seemed like a better work environment. From what I've seen, if you are a physio that's moving here, there is pretty high demand for physios still in Australia as of April in 2025. There's a very high chance that you'll manage to secure a job within a couple of months. This is a difficult one because you don't want to apply too far out, like 6 months out, because people aren't likely to hold a job position for 6 months. So I'd probably recommend start applying about 3 months before you move. And then going to interviews, generally I'd just advise be yourself. It's not like the interviews for the NHS or really in the UK. The people here really want to see who you are as a person, let you out in the interviews, put your best foot forwards, and that's all you can do. Next step, moving logistics and costs. So you've got flights, of course, you've got cost of shipping things across. We ended up shipping more than our baggage allowance over here because we wanted to move all our stuff over here. I'll explain how I did that now. So first of all, you got your flights. For us, I think it was approximately £1,000 one way. That varies. You can get it for £900 and you can get it for £1,300. Book your flights nice in advance. I'd recommend 12 months, but if you can't, just the further away from the move date you can book them, I would do it. Get it sorted. I would recommend flying to Brisbane and getting a taxi or getting a train. Trains at the moment over here in Queensland at least are 50 cent regardless of where you're going. So if you actually went to Brisbane, you can get the train down to the Gold Coast for 50 cent, or you could get a taxi. There's plenty of taxis. We made the mistake of flying straight to Coolangatta, which is at the bottom of the Gold Coast Airport essentially. Actually probably could have got the flight a lot cheaper if we'd have just flown to Brisbane. To ship your bag over, you need to go to a website called sendmybag.com. They will ship your bag over and it's insured. Just make sure you look at the terms and conditions of what you can and can't send over. I think generally batteries you just can't send, and liquids. But if it's clothes, if it's shoes, if it's anything else that's not got a battery in it, put it in there. I actually shipped a PlayStation 5 in that bag and I can't recommend the service enough. They were absolutely fantastic. The whole process was really easy. So sendmybag.com, this is not endorsed, that's just what I used. The next thing you need to think about is where are you going to live? This is quite difficult and we didn't actually manage to find a rental before we moved. So we ended up booking an Airbnb for 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. We moved out after 2 weeks anyway. Finding a rental over here can be quite difficult. We managed to actually get the first one that we applied for, which was fantastic, but you may not be so lucky. Book an Airbnb, maybe even for a month. In fact, no, we did book it for a month. Yeah, we booked it for a whole month. We ended up moving out like just over 2 weeks after. A guaranteed way that you'll have somewhere to live when you get here, and then start looking for a rental. To find a rental, there is a couple of websites that you can go on. I would probably recommend realestate.com.au. That was where we found our apartment. And then you need to start going to viewings. Viewings can be quite overwhelming. Lots of people turn up, and the best thing that you can do is dress fairly nicely, be really polite to people. If a real estate agent is accepting an offer above asking, then it's likely a dodgy real estate agent, because that's actually illegal over here in Queensland. I'd recommend looking at apartment blocks. Just keep looking, keep going to viewings. Book as many viewings as you possibly can. We basically spent the first 2 weeks of being here going to viewings every single day. until we found an apartment we liked and we applied for it. I know there's a lot of people that say there's a rental crisis, and yeah, rentals are really difficult to get, but you can do it. It's not that hard. If you want any more information around the rental situation, then just drop the comment down below and I'll reply to you. I'd also recommend a travel insurance. I'm not going to recommend any travel insurances in particular. I'm not really going to tell you which one we went with because I've not had to use it yet, so I can't recommend it, but look for travel insurance or just health insurance in general. We just got an Australian health insurance because it works, but just go on a comparison site. And you'll also need to set up a phone contract. If you are coming to the Gold Coast, if you go to Robina, if you go to Pacific Fair, Australia Fair, there's loads of places that you can go and set up a phone contract. Just make sure your phone is unlocked to any SIM. I actually brought a spare phone with me so that I could have an Australian phone and a UK phone, and just be conscious that it'll cost you a lot of money to send a text back to a UK phone, so WhatsApp is your best friend. If you do want to keep your UK number, just buy a pay-as-you-go SIM. We went with an EE one, and just send a text message from it every couple of months, and you'll keep your UK number whilst you're here. All right, whilst we're making our coffee, I'm going to talk about some of the things that I wish I knew before we moved. So the first thing was, APRA takes a lot longer than I expected. I was cutting it close by leaving a couple of days to spare before we moved. This coffee's unreal. So honestly, get it started way before you need to. If you can give yourself 12 months, give yourself 12 months. If you can't, 6 months is fine. Second thing I wish I knew. I thought the cost of living was going to be a lot higher than it actually is. Although it's not cheap, it's not as expensive as I thought. I can also do a breakdown video for that if you want to know how much it's costing us to live in Australia. But a great recommendation for costs is save a buffer of about £5,000 if you can before you move. Don't forget, if you do move, you can always come back. Just make sure you've got the money for a flight. Next thing I wish I knew was you don't need to ship half your life here. I would probably recommend don't bring too many cold weather clothes. I brought one hoodie and a coat, and I think I've worn the hoodie once. So everyone says that Australia has much better work-life balance. And there's parts of that I agree with and parts of that I don't agree with. Let's start with the bit that I don't agree with. You probably will be working just as much as you are in the UK. That being said, the time that you spend out of work can be spent outside, at the beach, by the pool. So in terms of work-life balance, it is actually better. No more being stuck inside because it's wet and miserable outside, figuring out what you can do because it's raining and you can't do anything. Most weekends here are sunny and nice. And if it's not sunny and nice, the shopping malls are incredible. Another thing that I wish I knew is how strong the sun is here. Make sure you wear sun cream because it'll fry you in like 20 minutes. When you get here, you'll also want to open a bank account, and we've opened a bank account with CommBank, and that's where most people recommend getting a bank account. And you'll also need to register for a tax file number, which you can do online. I'll pop any links to anything that I've mentioned in this video in the description so that you can go and have a look. If there are any questions about what I spoke about today, we can always do like a part 2 video where I answer those questions, so just let me know in the comments below. But I think we'll leave it there today just because there's a lot of information that I've thrown at you. If there is anything else you need to know, let me know. But for now, that will be everything. My name's Dan, I'm a physio, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.